Hey guys, what is going on? The All Blacks are in the United States of America. It's the rematch. Who could forget that fateful day in 2016? Chicago. First time the All Blacks lost to Ireland in 111 years. I was there. Except I was running late for the game because I thought it was a 7 p.m. kickoff. Just everything went wrong that day, man. I don't know if Mercury was in retrograde or something, but like for New Zealanders, it was a disaster. I run to get to the stadium. I catch the second half, and it was probably, the most nightmarish experience I've had as an All Blacks fan, short of the demolition job the Boks did to us in Wellington this year. Anyway, long way of saying, there's a sense of revenge about this fixture because that day, that autumn day in 2016 has really haunted New Zealand for a long time. In some ways, it was a symbolic turning point. That was when cracks started showing in the impervious facade of the All Blacks. The 2011 to 2015 All Blacks, who had then romped undefeated through the Rugby Championship. This was when it all started to go a little bit pear-shaped. So there's a feeling about this game that we want to get the job done. I'm going to break down both teams. I'm going to emphasize the All Blacks, which is my area of expertise. But, I did just want to give you that little preamble because this game has a lot of feeling, not just for the players, but fans like me and probably you as well. We don't want to drop this fixture. We really, really want to show that we've rebounded from Wellington. I just don't want to even call it a Grand Slam tour until we put this game away because there is part of me that's concerned that this Grand Slam could be over before it begins. Now, spoiler alert, I'm going to pick the All Blacks to get the job done. But I feel that we are absolutely underestimating Ireland at our peril. Oh, they're going to be rusty. They haven't had as much time together as the All Blacks have had. Yeah, that's true. Ireland proper haven't played since the Six Nations. But take a look at that Lions team that did beat Australia and thrash some of the provincial Australian teams this year. Look at that team. So many Irishmen. Could say, in some ways, the spine of the team was really Irish and English. Okay? So it's not like some of the star players for Ireland have just been sitting in cotton wool for months. It ain't like that. They had a big, high-intensity, high-pressure fixture, and they were part of a team that got the job done. Even if they weren't wearing the emerald green of Ireland, that's still a confidence boost. And they're ramping back into form with their club rugby. So my point is, we're all going way too heavy underestimating Ireland. It reminds me of the Rugby World Cup quarterfinal when everyone was going way too heavy underestimating the All Blacks, forgetting that they were the mother All Blacks, okay? They were written off. Non-event. Ireland will beat them, they'll go on to the final, it'll be an Ireland Springboks final. Don't do that. I'm not underestimating Ireland, but we'll talk about their team in a second. Here's New Zealand's team. Ethan de Groot is starting over Tamaiti Williams. Why is that? Well, Ethan de Groot is damn good. He is solid, and we really need to make sure that our scrum is firing. We know that this front row can do it. We had some struggles in the scrum against South Africa. Yep, we kind of got the better of the Aussies at times, but really it was just parity. The dominance we saw early in the season from the ABs at scrum time has not been there in recent weeks. We would love to make a statement against Ireland, a team known for their power scrummaging. So Cody Taylor, of course, the Centurion, had to be in there. And Fletcher Newell, he is really the best on show, possibly even with Tyrell Lomax fit. Lomax is really the best scrummager in New Zealand in a number 3 jersey. But, man, Fletcher Newell has just been phenomenal this year from the Crusaders portion of the year all the way through to the All Blacks. Not only has he not let us down at any point, he has excelled. He's gone from a bench player to arguably a bona fide starter. So, loving this front row. And I do think that, if you look at number 1, Tamaiti Williams struggled a bit coming back from injury. I think it's one thing to come back against a Japan, an Ireland, a Fiji, with all due respect. It's another thing entirely to be trying to play your way back into form against the double world champion South Africans. And Tamaiti Williams just got a little bit exposed, coming back from serious injury, out for a couple months. So maybe safer to start him off the bench. Now, as we know, Tupaea injured, not on this tour. Patrick Tupaea ruled out. Yikes. Lock is an issue for New Zealand. We really need Barrett and Holland to stay fit. The good news is that really Holland probably should be starting. Tupaea is such a good player that you try to get him in the team any way you can. Trying him at 6, which was a bit of a mixed experiment. I think it does work. Probably not the best long-term option, but you're just trying to shoehorn him in anywhere. And in fact, I think Holland is clearly the starter for the All Blacks. You look at his line-out winning percentages. They are phenomenal. He just does the core duties so well. I love this locking duo. I also love this loose forward trio. Peter Lakai starting over Wallace Satiti. Why is that? Well, I think that we looked a little less vulnerable at the breakdown in that second game against Australia in Perth. And what I saw from Peter Lakai, who is a very athletic player, very speedy around the field, not the biggest unit, but one of the quickest, excellent at the repeat work rate bursts. He was shoring up that leaky breakdown with the rapidity that he showed getting around the field, getting his head stuck in there, in the dark places. So I like the balance of this loose forward trio. Yeah, I'd probably like a taller option in the line-out, and that's where maybe a Tupaea would be good at 6 here, right? Because Lakai and Savia, they're pretty monstrous, but they're not the biggest players. They're not quite South African statured. But Park is going to need to bring the physicality at 6. And let's hope that Wallace Satiti brings some good impact off the bench. Obviously, you got the first choice halves pairing here. Cam Roigard has been a revelation since coming back, by far the best 9. And, Barrett has recovered pretty quickly from his niggles. He's starting. And I thought McKenzie played really well in Perth. But look, Beauden Barrett has started the lion's share of games at 10 this year. We'll find out next year if these blokes are just keeping the jersey warm for Richie Mo'unga. But for now, you feel that Barrett is going to be the first choice for Ireland, for England, for the most important fixtures. Watch out for Scotland, by the way, but we'll talk about that next week. Loving Caleb Clarke at 11. Glad he's also recovered from some of his injuries. I just think he gives you that aerial capacity. Not just receiving kickoffs, not just fielding the high ball, and you can be damn sure Ireland is going to be kicking those high balls all day, but also attacking aerial work. I'm thinking Beauden Barrett going for the cross kick, right? Think about this guy chasing bombs all day. Making those 50-50s more like a 51% likelihood for the All Blacks. There's just something about him in the air that gives me a little bit of a peace of mind. And I've spoken about this in quite a few videos, guys. If you follow this channel, if you subscribe to it, if you haven't, please subscribe now. What are you waiting for? There's no time like the present. But if you follow this channel, you know that I've talked about we're going back into an era. It's here where that high ball work is really so important. And it's actually probably more important right now than the sheer creativity on the ground. That's why a guy like Sevu Reece, as inventive as he is, as sparky as he is, he's not starting here. Arguably, he creates more. But it's that aerial battle. That's where Caleb Clarke comes into his own. So Leroy Carter, he's really grabbed the ball by the horns, become a dead set starter. Will Jordan, never in doubt, along with Ardie Savea, one of the first names you write down. But let's talk about the midfield. Quinn Tupaea has the 13 jersey. I think that's great. The reality is, Billy Proctor has been solid this year. Give him a 6 out of 10. We're not looking for a 6 out of 10. With the caveat that he needs more time. It's first year really starting regularly for the All Blacks. Can't have unrealistic expectations. These guys are humans, they're not machines. But with that said, when Quinn Tupaea comes off the bench, as he did in Auckland, sets the world alight, starts the following week in Perth, sets the world alight, you have to give him another opportunity. You have to play the hot hand. It's kind of nuts not to. So I like this pairing. Obviously, it would have been interesting if Rieko Ioane was on the bench. A lot of bad blood with Ireland, going back to his very classless comments, which I don't condone. I do not like bad sportsmanship, and I usually expect better from the All Blacks. You know what I'm talking about. Don't miss your flight. See you next Tuesday. I believe that's what he said. Paraphrasing here, but that's what he said to Johnny Sexton after eliminating the Irish from the Rugby World Cup. Well, the Irish too like a good sledge themselves, so maybe turnabout is fair play. But anyway, he's not there. We're going for more power. We're going for Leicester Fainga Anuku. And, after a pretty barnstorming first start of the year in Perth, I like that selection. And then Ratama and McKenzie picked themselves. But, if we look at the forwards on the bench, as I mentioned, Tamaiti Williams, always going to be in there. Samisoni Takiaho, clearly the number 2 hooker. And Pasilio Tosi, too, automatic kind of pick as you go down the propping depth chart. But it's Josh Lord. He needs to stand up, man. He needs to stand up. He needs a good game here. Because this guy has been in the squad or on the periphery of the squad for years and has just never quite made a starting or bench spot his own. It's time. Not expecting him to move mountains in his first game back in a while, but he needs a strong tour. Like, of all the names I'm seeing here, he is the guy that I think really needs to make a statement, or he is going to get usurped by the likes of Darry, maybe even Isaiah Walker-Leawere. You know, there's some other good young locks coming through. His spot could be vulnerable. He's a big man. We like his size. We just want to see him deliver. Let's take a look at the Irish and cover off some talking points about them. So interestingly, I mean, this team has a very Leinster feel to it, which means that Geordie Barrett, who did play in Leinster earlier this year, he might have some good intel on the guys he's lining up against. 12 of the starting 15 are from Leinster, I believe. 16 of the total match day 23. And a few Munster guys in there. One of them is Tadhg Beirne, who one of the best players on planet Earth. I mean, this is the thing. This Irish team has all the big names you'd expect, which is why I just don't think you should underestimate them. They're not really missing much firepower here. You have Dan Sheehan captaining the team only for the second time, but that is a front row that we know all too well as New Zealanders. I mean, Furlong and Porter, they've done some damage on our scrum over the years. Obviously, Tadhg Beirne is just a freaking machine in the lineouts. So good at winning ball. I think if I look at the loosies here, you know, Jack Conan, very solid player, but it's Josh van der Flier who always rings the alarm bells for me as a Kiwi. You know, he can do some real damage at the breakdown, and I think that's why I like the selection of Peter Lakai. You might have a bit more power and mongrel out of a Wallace Satiti, but I think that we just need to be getting to those breakdowns quick, plugging the leaks before they're there. And I think speed and pace is going to be really important. I think we're going to have to try and beat Van der Flier to the punch because he will be hitting those rucks all freaking day. If we look at the backs again, familiar faces, pure class. Like, I bow down to these guys, and I'm not being sarcastic here. Like Jameson Gibson-Park, damn. He is in the mix with, I want to say, Cam Roigard, but also Anton Dupont. You know, he's up there in the conversation for best halfback on earth. Now, number 10, we got this eternal battle, right? It's sort of like the Bowden Barrett, Richie Mo'unga debate that we've had for years and years and years. It's going to start again next year. Well, now is it Crowley or Prendergast? We're going with Crowley here. You know, he has been in great club form. But look for Prendergast to come off the bench and cause a little bit of damage with his running and passing. Such a dynamic player, really. It is interesting to me, you know, that you don't go with Bundee Aki. He apparently has had a hip issue. But look, my understanding is if you're fit enough to be on the bench, you're fit enough to be starting. Because as we all know, you know, someone could go down in the second minute and then you have to come on and pretty much play a full 80. So, look, I don't think they would have risked him if he isn't fit enough to get through a full game. But you have Stuart McCloskey there, who's been really in great form for Ulster. So, hey, probably a pick on form. And you do have the insurance policy of Bundee Aki on the bench. So, you know, nothing really wrong with that midfield. So, look, if there's any vulnerability here, and I hesitate to use the word vulnerability when you have James Lowe there, who is such a brilliant player, and that's not just, you know, the Kiwi in me, recognizing the merits of a former Mulu man. He's a world-class player. But, you know, Mac Hansen, not available. Hugo Keenan with his huge AFL-style boot. Not available. Missing those kick returns from him, for sure, they will be. So not the most experienced trio there. I believe Tommy O'Brien, number 14, this may just be his third game. So if there's any vulnerability looking at this, you know, pretty stacked back line, maybe it is that back three, just in terms of sheer caps and time together in the saddle. Probably the biggest name that jumps out immediately is Caelan Doris. He's coming back after 6 months of injury. So really good for the Irish to have him on the bench. So much experience there. Obviously captains the team. But they're not throwing him straight back into the captaincy role. And I think that's good. You know, ease him back in. It's enough just to come back against the All Blacks after 6 months on the shelf. So happy for the Irish to have him back there. So look, just to wrap it up, you know, I am going to pick the All Blacks. I think that even though it was 9 years ago, that loss in 2016, it still burns. I mean, it hurts to even, like, think about it and talk about it. I get flashbacks to that day and just the absolute sheer emptiness I felt leaving Soldier Field, finding other Kiwis to commiserate with, watching the Irish wave their flags, drinking in the streets. It was an historic day. But A little utu, a little revenge would be a good thing here for New Zealand. And look, if they can get this win under their belt, then I'll start calling this a Grand Slam tour. I am just a little superstitious. I don't want to call it that now because this Grand Slam could be over before it begins. Like, do not think that this game is safe. Everyone's talking about the English game, right? That's the dangerous one. No. The dangerous one is the first one. So let's not get cocky here. All right, guys, I'll look forward to breaking down the game with you on the weekend. Meanwhile, send this video to someone who loves rugby. Like, subscribe. Be back for another one real soon. Take it easy. Bye for now.